Hi, I've been asked to make a video on the differences between using alcohol ink, and I'm using Pinata alcohol ink here, and transparent pigments in resin. So what I've done is I've chosen two colours, so I've chosen two yellows and two reds. And what I've done is I've mixed up 4 little pots of resin. This one here is for the trans pigment, and this one here is for the alcohol ink. I'm trying to mix approximately the same amount to see the effect that comes out. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mix the alcohol into the resin. I'm just using a pipette here for this. I've put 6 drops of red in that one. And you do need to mix the alcohol in quite well. There we go, that's given a nice translucent colour. I'm going to use a little bit of the red. I just literally drop my stick in, pop it into there, and then I will see how that fares. So as you can see, they are quite different colours, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is pour that one in there. That's the alcohol ink red up to where we need it. And we'll pour the trans red into there as well. The next one I'm going to be using is the yellow. And I do find that the yellow with alcohol inks needs a lot more ink than any of the other colours. So I put 20 drops in that to try and get that to give a good translucent colour. And don't forget, with any colour that's a liquid colour, you really don't want to add more than 10% of the volume of resin that you have, because if not, it can affect the curing of the resins. And now we're going to do the translucent pigment. So I'm only just sticking my stick in, look, and now I'm going to mix that around. That's nicely mixed in. Once they're cured, we can then make a comparison to see what we think. I'm just going to pop over them with my lighter to destroy any bubbles. All the things that I use in this video I will put in the description. I'll put a link in the description so that you can follow that link and get them yourselves. So these have cured now, and that's the translucent pigments and that's the alcohol pigments. So let's demold them and have a look. Okay, so as we can see, really there is not a great deal of difference in the yellows. There are different shades of yellows. The red is a lot darker on the translucent than it is on the alcohol ink, and they are still very translucent. I do think that for the majority of the colours, actually the translucent resin pigment gives a much better colour than the alcohol ink. So there's the alcohol ink and there's the translucent pigment. The other thing is I found is, and I don't know about you, and I'd be interested to hear what you think in the comments and if you've experienced the same, but I find that alcohol inks in resin often make the colours fade a lot quicker than the translucent pigments. In fact, I've not had any real fading happen with translucent pigments, but I have had quite a bit of fading happen within about a year of the alcohol inks. The other thing is I do find, and this doesn't really affect too much, is if you put too much alcohol ink in your resin, then what it will do is it will affect the cure. And also it can affect, if you're using a heat resistant resin, it can affect the heat resistance of that resin because you're changing the chemical balance of that actual resin itself. And I know that because I read up on it this morning. I much prefer the use of translucent pigments. I think they're much truer colours, because I have had occasions where I've put alcohol inks into resin and what's happened is the colour has dramatically changed, certainly with blues and things like that. But overall, if that's what you've got, then you still can get a very decent effect with them. But I do prefer the translucent pigment.